when cyber ninjas, magical dragons, hellish paratroopers, and hydra monsters all appear in one game. I can't even imagine how exciting it would be. I wonder if you've ever imagined being the protagonist of a story and adventuring in one of those exciting stories. Split Fiction, a super high-scoring two-player co-op game released recently, gives you the opportunity to do so. What's the story of Split Fiction, the sequel to It Takes Two? The story begins at a unique publishing house called Raider. Compared with the traditional publishing industry that everyone knows, Raider's more of a tech company with a special machine called a story machine that reads the ideas directly from the author's minds and puts them in a simulation of their story, and then extracts and packages the entire story. But Raider didn't seem to be interested in writers who were already famous. They're more interested in the small, unpublished authors, and they were willing to pay big bucks for these little unknowns. For this reason, there were a lot of dream writers coming into the Raider building, and Zoe and Mio were among them. When he first met Mio in the elevator, Zoe greeted her warmly. Mio was taken aback by the suddenness of the greeting. Before the two of them could speak, they joined the other authors in the elevator and arrived at Raider's core asset, the storytelling machine. In order for the story machine to pinpoint the ideas in the authors' heads, they were asked to wear a special uniform. They were confronted with a huge machine in front of them. Zoe and Mio had very different reactions. Zoe happily thanked Raider, the owner of the publishing house, for his willingness to publish their work. Mio, on the other hand, is deeply skeptical about the unconventional publishing process, watching the other writers get wrapped in a blue curtain of light. Mio, who couldn't accept the story machine, decided to give up the publishing opportunity and decided to leave Raider Publishing. But to Mio's surprise, Raider and his staff tried to force her into the story machine, and in an accidental shove, the struggling Mio was pushed into Zoe's activated platform. With a flash of white light, Mio, a science fiction writer, entered a fantasy story written by Zoe. Along with her comes a strange malfunction in the simulation. Zoe was furious at Mio's sudden appearance in her story. She doesn't want to let this hard-won publishing opportunity go down the drain because of Mio. Mio, on the other hand, senses something strange in Raider's behavior. While they were arguing, Mio's inadvertent touch activated the malfunction behind them and brought them to a science fiction story written by Mio. Before they could fully react, a crashed fighter jet in the sky helped them stop arguing. Mio's intuition told her that the malfunction could be the key to their escape from the story machine, and Zoe, desperate to get Mio out of her story, joins her on a journey to find the malfunction. This base in the desert, with its location exposed, it has become the center of a war between the rebellion and the Empire. After navigating through the crumbling facilities of the base, Mio and Zoe managed to find an undamaged fighter in the tarmac on top of the base. They flew it through the sandstorm and the enemy, and they found that little glitch again. Just like before, the glitch took the pair away from the sandy interstellar battlefield and brought them to the castle that Zoe wrote about that was invaded by an army of trolls. But the situation here is no better than the lasers flying around. The trolls have completely breached the castle's defenses and have begun to wreak havoc on the streets. The two of them crept along the alleys. They eventually discovered the malfunction in the city's tallest clock tower and got past the glitch and out of the story before the savage trolls completely destroyed the clock tower. There was another flash of white light, and they were once again in a virtual space of data cubes. And the glitch tore a rather large rift in that space. Along with the crack was the familiar voice of Raider, the publisher's boss. In the real world, Raider was furious with his two men for the accident. The story machine was never designed for the two of them to be in the same cabin. Mio's intrusion caused the machine to overload, which caused the malfunction they saw. If left untreated, the malfunction could have destroyed the entire machine. But with the exception of Mio and Zoe, the machine was steadily extracting all the ideas from the other writers' minds. Mio, upon hearing this, realized that instead of being called a story machine, this machine should be called a plagiarism machine. Not just the work they've signed publishing deals for. All the ideas they had in their heads would be stolen by Raider. Realizing Raider's ulterior motives, Zoe no longer spoke ill of Mio's intrusion. To protect the ideas in their heads, they decided to keep searching for the malfunction in various stories, and planned to use the glitch to crush the plagiarism machine once and for all. On a rainy night in Cyber City, Mio and Zoe woke up as cyber ninjas. In this story that Mio wrote many years ago, the cyber ninjas seek revenge against the SRI crime syndicate that rules the city. After getting a general idea of the story they're in, Equipped with electric katanas and gravity whips, the duo set out for the top of the tallest building in the city. But the SRI is no slouch. They sent a large number of men to intercept them on the air highway that runs through the city, and used their crazy parking lot AI to collect parking tickets from the two cyber ninjas. After successfully navigating their way through the SRI group's barricades, Zoe and Mio drove their motorcycles to the criminal masterminds who ruled the city and defeated it against a sky of lasers. With the fall of the crime boss, the malfunction reappeared in the middle of the field. Zoe realizes that the glitch in the blue space seems to be getting bigger and bigger as they collect more pieces of the glitch. The staff operating the story machine also noticed that the expanding glitch seemed to be gradually affecting the story machine. At this point, Raider anxiously tries to shut down their console. However, this glitch seems to be preventing the execution of the command. Even the company's board of directors was aware of the storyteller's failure. All these pressures make Raider, who considers the story machine as his everything, more and more irritable. In the story machine simulation, Mio and Zoe re-enter the world of the next malfunction. In this story written by Zoe, the evil Ice King has invaded the once peaceful enchanted forest and is ready to bring it into permanent ice. And the forest guardians, who have the power of transformation, must stop the evil Ice King. By utilizing their shape-shifting ability, they manage to get to the magnificent palace of the Frozen King. In the throne room of the Frozen King, Zoe was talking about how evil the enemy she was about to face was. But then she turned around and saw Mio petting a kitten from nowhere. The sight of the cat immediately brought a look of panic to Zoe's face. It turns out that the prototype of the evil Frozen King, Zoe's childhood neighbor's cat, was always destroying things. As the biggest villain of the story, this kitten is not as gentle as Mio thought. He used the power of the necklace on his chest to instantly transform into a snow beast with huge horns. But the Frozen King was not able to defeat the combination of the giant ape and the tree man. He transformed back into a kitten. A new glitch also appeared in front of the two as the ice and snow disappeared. As they were unable to solve the malfunction of the story machine, the directors of the publishing house began to put pressure on Raider in order to get them to stop looking for the problem. Raider quickly gathered information about Mio and Zoe. From this information, he learned that Mio's father needed a lot of money to cure his illness. Through the story machine's dialogue system, Raider offered Mio a deal. He promised to provide sufficient financial support in exchange for Mio's departure from the story machine. But at this point, Mio was still quite lucid. She knew that Raider was a liar who would do anything to get what he wanted, and she turned him down without hesitation. Then she and Zoe moved on to the next glitch. In this story written by Mio, the two are the Hell Jumpers who survived the raid. An army of robots are working on some kind of poison in this massive facility. They're trying to wipe out all organic life. In order to stop the robots' plot, Mio and Zoe must find the source of the poison in the facility. Using laser pistols, shield launchers, and flying backpacks, Mio and Zoe managed to enter the deepest part of the facility and find the source of all the poisons, a giant octopus imprisoned in a petri dish. It turns out that the story is based on Mio's father, who was suffering from a debilitating disease. Due to an incurable disease, Mio's father was imprisoned in the hospital like this octopus, desperately waiting for the inevitable end. But this time, with Zoe's encouragement, Mio finally decided to save the octopus that symbolizes his father in this story. And with the help of the octopus, she left behind her long-standing anger and depression. She escaped from the demonic robotics facility. They managed to collect another glitch. At this time in Raider Publishing, for the sake of this machine, which had been 20 years in the making, Raider ordered his men to activate the story machine's self-repair program in an attempt to force the malfunction caused by Mio and Zoe. The original blue analog space suddenly turned a disturbing red, and the road to the malfunction point became more and more difficult. In order to keep their consciousness stable, Mio and Zoe had to stay close to each other. Together, they climbed the data peak where the glitch occurred. This is a land long lost to history. The mother of dragons and countless dragons were the masters of this kingdom. But they were betrayed by foreign enemies and their own people. Now the only hope left for the entire dragon race is two eggs, one red and one blue. The two dragon riders who are waiting to come to the dragon kingdom. Similar to the octopus that symbolized the father, Zoe has put her thoughts of her twin sister Ella into this story. The adventures and growth of the two young dragons, just like her and her sister's past. With the help of two dragon riders, two long dormant eggs hatch. They evolved twice in the temple that housed the souls of their ancestors. They grew into strong and agile young dragons in a very short time. In order to complete the revival of the dragon race, Zoe and Mio and their dragons must defeat the giant stone dragon that betrayed the entire dragon race. In this amazing battle, the two dragon riders and their dragons worked together. They succeeded in plunging their golden sword into the skull of the stone dragon. The rejuvenation of the Dragon Kingdom also led Zoe to reveal to Mio her deepest wounds. It turned out that Zoe's twin sister, Ella, had died in an accident when she was 12 years old. Since then, a huge hole was created in Zoe's heart. She could only fill it with words and time in her work. But Zoe and Mio didn't have much time to lament. The ensuing glitch signaled that they were about to embark on another story. The failure of the Story Machine's auto-repair program had infuriated the directors of Raider Publishing. They decided to come to Raider Publishing in person to voice their grievances. This decision drove Raider, who was already furious, into a frenzy. He couldn't think of anything else. He smashed the computers in his office in a fit of hysteria. Despite the objections of his men, he forced the storyteller to its maximum frequency, which pushed Zoe and Mio into the deepest recesses of their subconscious, to buy time for the Story Machine to repair itself, even if it might cause irreversible brain damage to the writers in the Story Machine. Raider was willing to do it. As the Story Machine's power increases, Zoe and Mio in the analog space also noticed a distinct anomaly. The malfunction didn't take them to any of their works. Instead, they arrive at a heavily guarded prison in the sky. Mio senses a familiar presence calling to her from the prison. Since they couldn't find any other way out of here, they had to go deeper into the prison to find the voice that was calling Mio. With the help of two spherical drones, Mio and Zoe managed to pry open the prison's closed doors and avoided the large number of guard robots patrolling the prison. They made it to the deepest cell in the building, but to Mio's surprise, this prison housed the negative emotions of her subconscious. This dark Mio symbolizes the girl's dissatisfaction and anger towards the world around her. In order to avoid being consumed by these negative emotions, Mio, with the help of Zoe, fought a battle against the dark side of herself. Unlike her old self, Mio now has the help of her friends, and she no longer needed the anger she kept hidden. Dark Mio eventually fell to the pair of friends in need. Although the Story Machine, running at maximum power, managed to restart the repair program, but both Zoe's and Mio's vitals were declining rapidly. Even the publisher's staff couldn't stand to watch Raider's madness. They threw away their badges and left the Story Machine lab. A frantic Raider ordered everyone off the machine and sealed off the entire office. Even if the two authors died in the machine, he couldn't let his 20 years of work be destroyed. After resolving Mio's demons, the machine brought them back to the depths of Zoe's subconscious. Unlike the warm and cheerful Zoe, inside her heart is an eerie and empty ghost town. A mural in the town depicts Zoe's family's happy life. Two magical pets are guiding Zoe back to the home she hasn't been to in a long time. In the temple in the middle of town, the pets have awakened a long-sealed two-headed worm to take Zoe and Mio to the highest point in the city. Though their looks were not as pleasing as they should have been, but the two-headed bug took good care of Zoe. Zoe also understood in front of the temple gates that the two-headed bug symbolized the parents she'd been neglecting. It turns out that at the age of 12, Zoe was the one who called her sister Ella to play by the river, which led to Ella's accident. After that, Zoe couldn't forgive herself. She ran away from her home and her parents, who still cared for her. To help Zoe break her demons, the two-headed bug gave a pair of necklaces to Zoe and Mio. And Zoe needed to overcome her guilt of being a giant hydra. Although, with the help of the necklaces and the pets, they managed to chop off 5 of the hydra's heads. But Zoe's necklace was unfortunately eaten by the hydra during the fierce battle. In order to defeat this monster once and for all, they had to jump into the hydra's stomach together with the necklace. In this monstrous and twisted space, Zoe was once again overcome by her uncontrollable guilt. Just as she was about to give up, Mio used her necklace to form a shield for her and brought her best friend back to retrieve the necklace next to Hydra's heart. They reassembled the broken statue of Ella and put an arrow into that ugly heart. The eerie ghost town was once again the warmth of her childhood home, and Ella hugged Zoe gently in front of the house. The guilt that had haunted Zoe for more than 10 years was finally released at this moment. Raider, who was waiting anxiously, never expected that. Zoe and Mio had worked together to break their deepest demons and successfully escaped from their subconscious. And because of their return, the restoration program of the Story Machine failed again. Raider had already lost his mind. He entered Zoe and Mio's analog space. Due to the addition of the third person, The story machine simulation space has been completely messed up. Mio and Zoe are no longer even in the same simulation. Various characters from both their stories have begun to enter the simulation, and Raider, in the guise of a superboss, tries to kill them all by utilizing the ideas from their stories. But Zoe and Mio have already developed a deep bond and understanding after their adventures in so many stories. In the end, Raider, who had done everything wrong, was forced into the void by Zoe and Mio in despair. The two of them finally left the crumbling story machine. A few months later, Mio and Zoe were armed with their soon-to-be-released autobiography, Split Fiction. They arrived at Mio's father's tombstone. The accident at Raider Press had not only created a strong friendship, it was also the first time they made a name for themselves. Although they all have their own pains, but the friends who always have your back will always be the ones you can count on. Under the glorious sunrise, Mio and Zoe, with their first printed book in hand, Mio and Zoe took a big step into a completely different future. So that's it. The story of Split Fiction is now complete.